before we get to the drag racing actual video, I just wanted to put this at the beginning for why I took the car down the track and why it ran the times that it did. Granted, the times overall are respectable for a 700 horsepower Terminator, not so much, but I'm going to explain why. First and foremost, the reason why I wanted to bring it down the track was not to cut a good ET. I used to race my 94 Cobra a lot. I'm not a drag racing expert, but I know enough to know what I'm doing. But the purpose of doing this wasn't to try to cut a good time. I just wanted a mile per hour to see what it will do in the eighth or the quarter based on the mile per hour for it. The second thing, and these are not excuses, these are explanations, so don't confuse the two, it's a very fine line. The clutch hasn't been readjusted yet since breaking it in. Obviously the clutch was broken in if I took it down the track. But it's still at a very, very high engagement. I didn't bother to readjust it yet because it's going right back to the shop. Like it was 2 days after the drag race. That I was going back to the shop to get the pillar gauges put in and get the clutch readjusted to where I wanted it to, do an oil change and some other stuff. So I didn't want to mess with anything, just could do it all at once at the shop and make some other adjustments that the car needs to have done on it. So I wasn't looking to cut a good ET for those reasons. The clutch, I knew it wasn't the best for drag racing type setup. Other thing, I didn't do a big burnout, and I didn't do a hard launch. The two reasons for that, the Mickey Thompson ET streets will bite very, very hard. And I know for a fact that the power level that I'm at and the stock half shafts, they will break under the right type of abuse. The video that I did when this had the stock supercharger and I did the 2.76 pulley swap at a friend's house, he had the black Cobra, some of you may remember that video. His car was sitting there broken down almost all summer long because he snapped his half shafts at a slightly lower power level than mine doing a street pull with someone. He probably did a hard pull from the very launch. Maybe that's why it broke it. I don't know if it was like a second, third gear shift or if it was a hard launch, but either way, it broke at a power level that I'm very capable of snapping the half shafts at. I didn't want that to happen at over 3 hours away from home, even though I have AAA and all that stuff. So my whole intent when I went up to the line was to do a small burnout, which I did. I didn't stand on the brake, I just let it roll. And then when I took off, I gave it a little bit of RPM. It was probably like 2,000 RPM, and I let off the clutch very light. I couldn't slip it because it was such a high engagement the way that it's set right now. But it was a very soft let off the clutch, and I got on it hard after that, and drove it as hard as I could the rest of the way down the track. But just the launch part I was worried about. But with all that being said, now I'll get to the actual videos. I will show the two runs and the time slip for each one. The second run was the faster one with the time at the end. So after the runs are put in and I show you the times, and I'll conclude the video with why I didn't think it was that great and everything else. Thank you. Now, I hadn't been down the track in quite a few years since having my 94 Cobra. A lot of track rust to knock off because drag racing is not as easy as a lot of people think that it is. I still retain a lot of information from doing it so much when I had that car. That doesn't mean I'm still proficient at it. I'd have to do a lot of practice to get really good at doing it, and this is the first time I ever drag raced this car too. So there's that. First time I ever drag raced something with this amount of horsepower behind it. But overall, at 8.1 and 92 is respectable, but not in the terms of what this car can do, because this car is capable of much more. This car should run in 10 seconds. I think that 8.1, if you do the conversion on it, it comes, you know, I think it's around like a mid-12, right around there. And that's what I was running with my 94 Cobra with a 351 Windsor in it. That wasn't boosted, it was just all engine. But it was set up for drag racing with suspension work and everything else. So it was set up to drag race. This is not. But the power level will overcome that as well. So I think, you know, the 26 spline input shaft is done. My only weak point left in this whole car is actually the half shafts. Everything else will handle the power that it has, theoretically, the clutch, the input shaft, all that. So really my only part I have to worry about is the half shafts. The sad part is that after doing those 2 runs, I know I have a 10-second car, but I want a 10-second slip, but also don't want to start beating on the car going down the drag strip all the time. So it's like a give and take. So perhaps if I can buy a second set of half shafts ahead of time and I happen to break them, it won't be as bad, because I don't want to break them right now because of the shortage of parts and everything else that we still have. I don't want the car to be down an extended amount of time when I can be driving it and doing videos just for a drag race video or a drag race ET slip. So it's something, I think it's a goal that I'm going to put on the car, is to have a car this power level, a 10-second slip, which isn't impressive. I mean, there's a lot of cars that run 10 seconds without much work done to them, but I still think it's a respectable number to have, to say you have a 10-second car, X amount of horsepower. You know, it's, you know, this by means isn't the most horsepower out of a performance car or a Cobra on top of that, but it's goals to reach for. So I'm going to keep that 10-second slip, you know, put it in my back pocket for a future goal to reach. So in the comments, let me know what you thought of the run. Did you think it was good? Do you think that it really sucked? And if it did really suck, you know, let me know how bad it was. But I just want to know your honest opinions, really. And like I said, I'll go back and I'll make it better in the future at some point. But thanks for watching, guys. If you liked the video, throw it a like. If you're new, consider subscribing. It, you know, it helps to make the channel bigger, helps to motivate me to do more videos. The bigger the audience gets that watches. So thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for watching.